Okay, let's start if we get this overhead projector to give us a picture. This week we will be trying something a bit different than usually. You may have noticed that this is no longer a lecture, this is a demo lecture. The reason of that is that the structure is so that I'll give you a brief description, 30 minutes, 45 minutes of some topic, and present you a practical case related to that particular topic. When I have given you the case, then you have time to try to start solving that particular problem. This week it's about gathering requirements and doing analysis on given ideas for product. Next week, for example, we will be doing a project plan based on sort of real-life scenario and doing busy analysis for simple mobile software and so on and so on. So basically all the, so to say, missing topics of this course, if you were following the online video archive and noticed that there's some major topics or areas we haven't been talking about yet. So the idea here is that this is the only local meeting, local event on the second period. I'll give you a sort of mini lecture, present a case, also talk about the new project work, and give you tutoring for the project work or answer your questions on exams and so on and so on. On these demo cases, it's expected you to work with your project team. These are not mandatory assignments. You can choose to submit them for review. There's a bounty of 6 additional points for your first exam if you return and successfully return and complete 4 out of the 5 cases. You can read more about that from the results page from Noppa. But anyway, the idea is that we will be talking about some practical issue here. I'll present you some first thoughts and show how to start solving the problem. Also talk about the issues related to that area, and it's up to you if you want to complete the assignment or not. Anyway, this week the topic is something that we have already been talking about on this course to give you sort of ease you into this demo lecture idea. So this week we will be talking about gathering requirements, doing requirements analysis and other work related to that. So if we take this picture about the software process from requirements to actual implementation and deployed software, today we will be here. We will be collecting information from customers. You will be given the opportunity, or the task is to get a sort of an idea what sort of information you get from your target audience or test users or your customers, and based on that create the list of requirements. Simple enough. You have information from your customers and the task is to create a list of requirements. To do this, you will be using the verbs plus classification method. So functional requirements, usability requirements, reliability, performance, security, and other. Other being physical restrictions like size and weight of mobile phone, stuff like that. And the other things such as the color or the price or any other thing really not related to functional aspects or usability or reliability, performance or safety. There's an online video on how this verbs plus model is used. There's also a video from the lectures last month, so I will not be going through this thing in detail, but to give you a couple of ideas on what sort of things to collect. So the functional requirements are of course things that the system has to be able to do. Things like the system has to be able to give tickets to customers or to bill the customers and so on and so on. What the system actually does. So the non-functional part then is everything else. If the functional things are related to the practical things that the system does, the other parts, the U, R, P, and S, and plus on this verbs plus model, of course, are the usability, reliability, performance, and supportability. So usability aspects like human attributes, aesthetics, online helps, training material, and documentation, of course, falls into the usability category. The reliability is about recoverability, frequency of failure, so meaning that how often does the system fail, software criticality, how bad is the situation when the system fails, does it cost lives, does it cause injuries, does it cost money, and how much money will it cost. Also, on other aspects in reliability, things like accuracy, meaning that you should have, for example, a calculator which gives you correct answer. The performance, speed, efficiency, resource consumption, throughput, response time, etc. Everything that has to do how much resources the system needs to perform or operate fluently or actually function or load itself and so on and so on. Since today's case is more or less about the mobile platforms and mobile applications, I'd say that the resource consumption, for example, is one thing that you should pay attention to. Because the idea of the case is to build a YouTube kind of a previewing software, and if you install or download all the demos and trailers and example episodes and etc., it will mean that the system will use huge amounts of memory in relative terms for mobile systems. So perhaps you might want to design something or consider the requirements in a way that it doesn't do so. Supportability, it's installability, localization, testability, extensibility, and adaptability. More or less things not actually related to the look and feel of the software, but how easy it is to upgrade or maintain or change or manage operating the software. So if you would be building something commercial, these things would probably be one of the things that will kill your software if they're not considered enough on the design phase. For example, if the installability of your software is poor, you can't really sell it to your customers because you have to install it by yourself, or if the customer cannot put it on any other environment without contacting you, that's a hazard. Of course, maintainability, if you are completely unable to cope with some hotfixes or new requirements for a platform like mobile system, that would kill your software also. So consider that also. Well, the other things, the plus in the verbs plus model, are the design requirements, implementation, interface, and physical requirements. More or less, the idea is that these things are things that are dictated by the hardware available, the environment available, marketing aspects, and so on. So if your marketing department wants something that's lightweight, easy to use, and has large touch screen, it's something that goes into the physical requirements. Of course, it's not something dictated by your selection of programming environments or programming languages or development suites, but it's something that makes your product more or less a desired customer product. So, without further ado, let's go into the case description if we get online connectivity here. If we don't, I'll just change to another system, but so the case today is an example on how you should design your software. So this isn't, by the way, real case in a sense that I'm not going to submit your work to any actual software company, but the case is available on the Noppa pages. So the description is quite huge. The case Showgazer is more or less a software which allows users to seamlessly preview and test out software, games, TV shows, and music. The system works something like YouTube. If user likes something on the application and selects it, the software is downloaded and executed, episode or trailer of TV show or movie is shown, or demo track from the album is played. If customer selects so, they can then buy the entire season or product or full version of the software, and so on and so on. So what you are doing here today is to get the actual requirements. The idea is here. This is the business case. What we have here is huge amount of customer quotes or ideas or summarizations from the interviews, which were preliminary interviews done before your team got involved here. So these are just opinions and ideas from the customers or potential customers, so to say. So your team is tasked to develop a list of requirements based on these. So start by getting all the different categories as a sort of a sheet and create requirements. So gather all the requirements you think you can have based on those different quotes. I'll give you a couple of examples during the lecture. And when you have collected all the requirements, you should more or less have a list based on this first plus classification. Then there's a few additional things. Do you think that this data can be used to design the software? So you have the information, you have the requirements. What things are missing, or what things you would need to get the software to be implemented? How much more information you'd reckon you would need? How would you collect that information? There's, of course, more information on the slides, on the lectures. How would you organize it? And finally, how much would it cost? If we say that 30 euros per hour is the average wage for one worker doing interviews or data analysis or anything related to gathering the requirements, so what sort of estimate do you have to completing the requirements for what the software would actually have to be like after you have collected all the requirements you think you can have based on this information? So, for example, here, something like, can we promote our new game in the system, would, of course, give you the idea that the target audience might include also people who actually want to promote their stuff on the software. So should you allow some sort of marketing approach, perhaps, like with YouTube, allow people uploading their own stuff into the system? How would you actually do that, and how would you build that work? Or, well, I almost always lose interest in any application that puts me into a loading screen. So would you want to create the system so that it actually, on the background, downloads and prepares stuff, or would you have the loading screens? Would that background downloading affect the amount of resources, for example, disk space required, and so on and so on and so on? So you do not only have to fit everything here into some requirement, but also reject those ideas which are completely ridiculous. So there's misinformation there, or there may not be misinformation there. If you want to design the system so that it includes everything, then, well, then it includes everything. But if you want to design something that actually performs rather nicely, or is somehow streamlined, or even sensible software, you might want to consider throwing away some aspects here. So, this is your assignment. The case is on the Noppa pages. The first plus model is discussed on the slides. Also, there's the video archive information. And I will be giving you some examples on different things that go into different categories during the demo lecture. And, well, you don't have to complete this assignment today or at all. If you want to complete it, work with your group and submit your work as instructed on the last paragraph of the case description. Okay, does anyone have questions about this part here? Because I think that because some of you here might be interested about the Project 2 assignment, I'll give you the general information about it now, so those of you who decide that they don't want to try the case can then leave. Next week, for example, we will be having, so to say, novel information on this presentation, so you might want to listen to the lecture part, but this week, since this is a sort of a new concept, we will try it with something that we have already discussed on this course. But anyway, going into the another topic and the actual reason why I wanted everyone to participate on this first demonstration lecture. I graded your Project 1 works yesterday. When the deadline was completed, I started my work, and right around 1 p.m. I gave the last grades. So I think that probably congratulations are in order to most of you, because I only had to reject one work which was missing some parts. If you didn't submit anything for the Project 1, I have to ask you, why are you still here, because you just failed the course. But if you did submit something, you probably passed the work. So congratulations, and now we go to the second project. So this is a larger case. This is a more complicated thing, and this includes something that's a bit similar to today's work. This case is also something you might want to read while you're at it. But the idea here is that we do this work in 5 parts. Each week, for the rest of the period, excluding the last week, you will be given more instructions on this work. The parts are more or less that the first part includes use case diagram and use case descriptions. The second part is the class diagram based on the concepts, and also doing some free-form user interface descriptions. Part 3 is architecture, deployment diagram, and technical design decisions. Part 4 is the use case analysis and activity diagrams and sequence diagrams. And finally, part 5 is the finalization and package diagrams. So more or less, each part consists of adding new viewpoint into the design. Of course, the idea is that you do this throughout the second period. You have, this is a quite large work, but you have enough time if you at least go through each part every week. So if you go through this work, now the first part is available here, and the next parts will be available, the part 2 next week, and part 3 week after that, and so on and so on. So the idea is to make a technical design and usability design for more or less a thing that is not Netflix. It's fun TV. Remember that. So all the different diagrams, or most of the different UML diagrams that you have been working with on this course, and defining one large system with it. There's several pages of instructions here, how to do things and what sort of things we want to have there. But remember that everything you design, and if you can prove that your design works, I will approve it. There's no one right answer here. Just make something that's logical and would be feasible as a product. So the final deadline is 15th of December. I don't expect you to submit me any partial works like the part 1 next week and so on and so on. You can just submit everything before 15th, but please at least try to do this project work weekly. It's quite large amount of work for the last weekend. So, but this is completely different thing from the demo lectures. So I know that this is a lot of work, this is a large workload, but on the other hand, you don't have the 8 a.m. lectures on Friday morning anymore. So remember that. Anyway, so the questions about the project 2 you can ask also here, because this is the project supervision or help desk and the demo lectures and stuff like that. But I'll beginning next week, I'll introduce the new part of the project at the last part of the demo lecture. This week, if you don't want to participate on the demo, you are free to go now, because I have shown you the project 2. But if you want to try the demo work, please go sit with your project team. And since we have more computers than we have teams, I think we don't have to do any restrictions, but at least one computer per group. And read the case description, demo lecture 1, showcaser, and start to do the classification work.